Siamo oggi al MACRO Testaccio a Roma in compagnia di uno dei più grandi fotografi del mondo, Steve McCurry. Chi può dimenticare i profondi occhi verdi della ragazza afghana immortalata per 2 volte a distanza di 10 anni da Steve McCurry? Steve, la gente la conosce come il fotografo di Sharbat Gula, la ragazza dagli occhi verdi che ha fotografato a Peshawar in Pakistan. Ha scattato quella foto nel 1984 quando era in un campo di rifugiati in Afghanistan. Si sente un po' prigioniero di questa icona?
Yeah, I'd never thought of myself as being trapped or imprisoned by this situation where this is the picture which really, in a way, defines my career in a way which this is the thing which people know about me. This is probably, in many cases, the only thing people know about me. But I look at the glass half full instead of half empty. And I think that it's a great thing. I mean, I think it's a wonderful, to have a picture which is iconic, to have a picture which is known and appreciated all over the world. I think I'm humbled and grateful that people respond so well to this picture and to my work. There's probably a handful of photographs which are recognized around the world, just a few. So, I feel very fortunate to have one of those pictures which, is really kind of instantly recognized all over the world.
La foto è decisamente bellissima e di forte impatto. Perché poi ha deciso di tornare a Peshawar per rifarla?
17 years had passed since we had photographed her, and the amount of interest, letters and emails and phone calls, and everybody wanted to know, what happened to that girl? Who was that girl? Where was she from? How can we help her? We want to send her money. We want to send her clothes. We want to marry her. There was so much interest over the years that eventually we thought it was our responsibility to try and find her and to see if there was some way that we could help her, to give back to her. So we, unfortunately, we didn't have her name or her tribe. But the reason we went back was because this overwhelming interest from all over the world to find out, who is she? Is she still alive? Can we help her?
Possiamo dire che Steve McCurry è un fotogiornalista con una speciale vocazione per il ritratto?
I think of myself more as, if I was going to use a word, I would say more of a documentary photographer. But I also have a fascination for portraiture. I love the human face. I love human behavior. I love the fact that, we're all the same. We all have 2 eyes and 2 ears, but we all are unique. We're all special. We all, and that variation on the theme, is endlessly fascinating to me. I love studying people and human behavior. So I think of myself as not only a documentary photographer, but also a portrait photographer.
Lei è stato in molte zone del mondo, posti segnati da conflitti e guerre, ma qualche volta sembra quasi che lei sia più interessato alle persone e alla loro umanità piuttosto che agli eventi storici. È vero?
Yeah, I've photographed a lot of areas of conflict, civil wars all over the world. For me, I'm not so interested in the combat or the fighting itself per se. For me, the people caught in the middle, the civilians, the people who are somehow caught up in this conflict, to me, and I think wonderful stories, important stories, dramatic stories can be told in a portrait or an expression or some detail of the situation which can actually speak to the whole story. A small detail can actually shed light on on the whole story. So for me, maybe an expression on a child's face can really speak to the story as opposed to some man with a gun shooting his gun. I think the story is better told, the tragedy, and it can be told in these other ways, not in combat photography.
Quanto è difficile fotografare in scenari di guerra come l'Afghanistan, l'Iran o l'Iraq?
Photographing in a place like Iraq or Afghanistan has its own problems, and I think that the danger, of course, is being kidnapped or held hostage. That happens all the time in these places, and the way to, for me, it's very important to work with some experienced guide or fixer, translator, somebody who really understands my job, understands the culture, and if there's a problem, can anticipate it, and perhaps we can extract ourselves. But these situations are very difficult because the tensions are very high. There's there's mines, there's bombing, and but I think the worst part and the most dangerous part is kidnapping, and that to me is the real the biggest danger in these places.
Sappiamo del suo amore per l'Asia e ci chiediamo da dove abbia origine.
I went to Asia when I was, it was actually my first big trip when I started photography. And I think that I spent, that first trip was supposed to be only 6 weeks, and it turned into 2 years. I went there literally on a very short trip, and it ended up, I spent 2 entire years in India. So I think that first trip really, I kind of fell in love with India and Asia, and I literally went back, dozens of times. I think I've been to India maybe 80 or 90 times now. There's a depth of culture. There's a ancient culture, which I think is the richest in the world. You have all these different religions, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and there's many others. So I think because of this mixture of religions and ancient culture and ultra-modern technology and whatnot, it creates this really wonderful kind of melting pot or stew of culture and events.
Come si cattura lo spirito di un luogo in uno scatto?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult question to answer. I think you have to, in order to show some deep emotion, I think you have to have that within yourself, some passion, some strong feeling about, suppose, a portrait of a person. And if you have that, very deep feeling within you, then I think you're going to convey that in the picture. And I think that, I've been photographing for many years. I think you learn how to translate your emotion and your feeling into the picture. But it's a very mysterious, it's a very mysterious process, and it's so it's hard to really describe because it's something intuitive. It's something kind of a feeling. It's sort of working from your heart or your gut. So it's not readily explainable, I think.
Pensa che il fotogiornalismo possa giustificare anche il mettere a rischio la propria vita?
Yeah, I don't think we ever, myself or my colleagues, we ever would feel that a picture's worth getting killed for. I think we always try and work in a margin of safety. We always try and be, careful. But there's a kind of an occupational hazard. Sometimes things go terribly wrong if you're, perhaps there's a lot of professions which are inherently dangerous, but you try and take all necessary precautions to be careful. But sometimes things go wrong. But I would say I would never say, I don't believe that a picture is worth being killed for. But sometimes things happen.
Qualcuno dice: una foto può dire più di 1000 parole. Prova a dire questo senza. Forse questa frase provocatoria è proprio l'anima del fotogiornalismo. Lei pensa che una singola foto senza parole possa essere considerata fotogiornalismo?
Yeah, I think the best pictures, the best documentary pictures are ones that don't require any words. You just look at the picture and the picture tells the story. Not even one word is necessary. There are a lot of great pictures that require words, require some caption, some description. I don't think it makes them any lesser than the other ones, but I think that the highest level, I think what we aspire to is to make great pictures that just stand alone, that don't require even one word.
Qual è stata l'esperienza più intensa della sua carriera in termini di esperienza fotografica, ma anche umana?
I think the most intense emotional experience I've had photographing is probably during 9/11 when, this tragic event, this terrible, catastrophe happened right while I was home in New York, living near the World Trade Center, and actually witnessed the thing happen right before my eyes. And it was really like a dream. It was sort of like, it was something which our brains couldn't process. It was some kind of overload. We just kind of went, it was just our brains just shut down because it was so overwhelmingly kind of, sad and tragic. So I think that was probably the most emotional time I've had as a photographer.
In passato il fotografo aveva un punto di vista privilegiato sulla vita e fino a non molto tempo fa guardare un reportage di un posto lontano permetteva alla gente di viaggiare con l'immaginazione. Oggi, con i voli low cost, equipaggiamento fotografico economico ma di qualità, internet, può il fotogiornalismo aiutare ancora a viaggiare con l'immaginazione e raccontare storie?
Well, the world has changed dramatically, I would say, in the last 30 or 40 or 50 years because we can fly anywhere. We can, the days of going to exotic places and photographing places that are unseen is pretty much over. So I think that the photographer, the documentary photographer really has to find new stories and tell stories better, not just go to a place like, some place in Africa, because everybody goes to Africa. There's nothing new about that. So you really have to dig a bit deeper and try and find stories which are not so obvious. It requires more thought, more research, more imagination. You just can't get on a plane and take pictures and think that you're going to have some great story for National Geographic or something.